Why do we say commentator instead of commenter? Another thread addresses the Englishness of the words. My question is different and a lot more convoluted. I hope I can make it plain and simple. There are straightforward nouns of action and agency with roots in English verbs, procrastinator, loafer, snoozer. And other nouns that arise from augmented, let's say, forms of the verb. Commentator is one such word. There's no verb commentate. 1. Orientation meaning guidance or adjustment student orientation week is another, though hugely more vexed, because there actually is a verb orientate meaning to face eastward both transitively and in trans. But I convolute. 2. Not long ago, we had a thread about meter and foot in prose, iambic, trochaic, and who knows what else that I've forgotten since college. Arguably, as speakers and writers, we seem unconsciously to choose the iambic, say, over boring spondaic. As listeners, we perhaps naturally find the iambic most pleasant and, euphonious. 3. Finally, the question. Let's suppose that we do in truth prefer rhythm that we can grab, that we can lean on and stand on. Do we then invent and manufacture made-up verbs, just so as to give us corresponding made-up nouns that feel better to speak and write? That sound better to our ears. Commentator sounds a lot better than commenter. Orientator is somehow easier to say than orienter. Not to go all Chomskyan on y'all, but is there an impulsive, inborn, irresistible way to speak? A natural way of locution? 2. 1. Not by our lights, anyway. Right? 2. Or am I merely dredging up fragments of Aristotle from dim recall?
A commentator is more than a commenter. Traditionally, the commentator is someone who reports the affairs of the day, a pundit. A commenter would be a person making an observation, example, or look, it's raining. The word a commentator may offer a sense of being a portmanteau of comment with orator or pontificator. It most assuredly is not, but for that reason it does not jar the ear.
A commentator is someone that tells you details about an ongoing event, such as a sports game, national ceremony, etc., because they can see things that you can't. A commenter, on the other hand, is different depending on the context. A commenter is someone who comments on past events, such as a news event, sports event, blog posting, etc. A commenter is also a person that goes through computer programs that are poorly documented and adds comments to describe in plain English as to what the code is doing. A commenter is a critic, journalist who comments on something they've seen and they give you their interpretation of what they think would interest you. Source.
The English word commentator comes directly from medieval Latin commentator. However, this Latin ancestor is labeled as rare and some dictionaries don't have it. Classical Latin does not use commentator but instead prefers commenter. Both are formed after the verb commenter, but one can see that by adding the standard Latin agent noun suffix, or, to the verb yields, commenter. Please note that the Latin verb commenter had a much broader meaning. It can be used as any of the followings: to consider thoroughly, thoughts, to prepare, expose, to invent, to compose, to write, literary works. For instance, commentarius has the meaning of memorandum, notebook. Remember, for instance, the original Latin title, Commentary di Bullo Gallico, of Julius Caesar's Commentaries on the Gallic War. These are actually not comments but a notebook, a relation, a title designed to be neutral but with an agenda, as is well known. I'm not too sure why medieval Latin, commentator, came to supplement classical Latin, commenter, but I speculate that this is related to the gradual loss of meaning as, to invent, and to the consequent specialization as, to expound, in which case, commentator would be formed after commentarius, the noun. This Julian commentary really looked like comments. So we have commentary and comment, just as we have documentary and document. Looking up both words in the Century Dictionary shows the nuance. A commentator makes comments or critical or expository notes upon a book or other writing. A commenter makes remarks about actions, opinions, etc. There's a whiff of scholarship in the commentator that is absent from the mere commenter. I don't deny that musicality or morphological consistency have a role to play in our vocabulary. However, and this is particularly true of English, I would argue that when several words with close signification are in competition, they tend to specialize and contribute to the language's richness. In that particular case, the reason why we might be more attracted to the variant commentator is possibly because of its perceived higher quality standard. Nevertheless, the word commenter, having a long history of its own, also has its dedicated niche where it is preferably used. A significant proportion of the Coca corpus entries I found had commenter associated with anonymous or typical sounds better than anonymous commentator this time.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.